this is Diane Blake, and this is my first YouTube video. And I'm going to start this off with a project or a challenge that Nick the Booksmith gave us. And that was to create a journal using very limited supplies. She gave us 4 options of things that we could have. And that would be including paper, glue, and instead of scissors, I opted for an X-Acto knife. And instead of string and needle, I decided to go with water and a paintbrush. Now, to talk about the paper that I used is kind of important because this paper is the kind of paper that you get when you get packages, online packages to your home. It's really cheap paper. As you can see, it has holes and it's all crinkly, which is the best part about it, is that it's all nice and crinkly. But another good part about it is the paper that I've received is perforated, as you can see here. I don't know if you can see, which means I didn't have to try to cut pages to be a certain size. They were whatever size this paper was. Now, when I received it, I had 2 different sizes of this paper, so one's a little shorter and one's a little longer, and that was really handy when I went to make a cover. But anyway, so this paper, though, is very, very flimsy, and in some cases, I wanted to have paper that was a little thicker, especially in our signatures, because I didn't want them to tear. So what I did was I made multiple plies. In other words, 2-ply, 3-ply, or 4-ply. This one's 2-ply, and that just made it stiffer. All I did was glue 2 pieces of paper together to make it thicker. And then when I went to bind this thing, instead of using string and thread, I used a technique called the slot and tab technique, where, as you can see in this page, at the center there is a hole, which is the slot. And then on the other page that you use to hook it together is you have a page that you've cut down 1/3 and up 1/3, and then you stick it in this hole, you pull it through, close that over, open this up, that's nice and tight now, and you now have a signature. And if you go online, you'll find the slot and tab binding. It'll show you how to hook multiple signatures together. Now what that means is I ended up with a signature or binding that looks a lot like this. And it was kind of ugly. I mean, it's okay, but I kind of wanted to have a binding that had a nice spine. That's the word I'm looking for, spine. So what I did was I created a cover using a technique that we had in the old school days, which was we took paper bags to cover our books to protect them. So in this case, I just used some more of my packing paper. I made it 3 or 4-ply, I don't remember which now, to make it thick enough to be stiff. I folded over the top, folded over the bottom, folded over the sides, allowing me to take some more strengthened paper, and I can just stick it in here, like so, and like so, and do the same thing on the back side. Just put it in those slots, you push it through. And the nice thing about this particular technique is that when you fill up a journal, you can make a new journal and stuff it into the same cover. There we go. Now let's look at some of my other supplies. So my options, you were allowed 4 options, so I decided to use red, blue, and yellow acrylic paint that I watered down a lot. And then I used a micron pen for doodling. In this case, it's an 05. Whoops, there we go, 05. Because I love to doodle, so this is perfect. As you can see in my journal cover, I wanted it to have kind of a bark look because I'm doodled a lot of trees in here. And so let me see if I can get you to As you can see, it sort of looks like bark. All I did was mix some red, yellow, and blue paint and make any colors I want. And so I can make this look kind of rough and like bark. It actually kind of feels it too. Okay, so now let's look inside this journal. Everything here is glued, there's no stitching. So first thing I did was create a pocket on the front page. This contains, it's got just a little slot in this page here, and I stiffened this a little bit on the side so that it would be strong enough as a pocket and glued it on. And this contains a few extra supplies that I could use. And just stick that in there. There we go. Closes up. And then for me, I like to document my journals. And that means that I tell a little bit about how they're made. And I created this little envelope in the same kind of process of creating that envelope. Pull that open. Describes when I started it and ended it. That it's a Nick the Booksmith book challenge, that what the 4 givens were, the 4 options, and then what the binding and cover was. And then I stick that back in that pocket. Okay, now because I used watered down acrylic paint and I had brown paper, you'll see that the paint on these pages, let's see if I can get to a close-up here, is kind of muted, kind of got a vintage flavor to it, and I really love that. Now the other thing I did was, you can see it on these pages, but every single page, you'll look around at the edges here, and I tried to make them look aged by creating brown paint and painting around the edges of every single page. So if you see that aged look, that's how I got it. And then I would also swish some paint on here, kind of a dry stroke on the crinklies of the paper to give a little more depth to the page. These are my doodles. I'll go through them quickly because a lot of them are the same. But as you can see, I did a little Zentangle in a couple of places here. There's a lot of room on these pages for journaling. In some places there's a little less, but at least that has a lot of interest to it and makes me enjoy using these pages. I really love the color on that. Now one of the other things I did was I splashed paint onto pages. Just took splatters of the red, blue, and yellow and just, made green and whatever, and just splashed the paint on these pages. Now I like doing that because then I try to find images that I can doodle on those pages. And you'll see that throughout this book. For instance, here, what I did was I created a page with 2-ply, and I glued part of that page onto the next page, folded it over so I have a little flip out. And as you can see, I doodled some pretty flowers on there. And I did that throughout this book in several little places. Now, I also glued a few of these pages together, and this was one of them where I made this extra thick because that was where 2 signatures came together, and that was to give it a little more strength because otherwise it would have torn. So I didn't want that to happen. So in between each signature, I would glue 2 pages together. Now on this page, I glued on a pocket, but first, before I glued it on, I cut holes in it just to give it a little extra interest. As you can see, when I pull this tag out, you can see it behind it. And I created tags. These are 2-ply, and I cut a little hole in here and decorated around it. And then I took some more paper and tried to use it like string, so it made it narrow enough to go through like ribbon, and then there's room on the back for more journaling. Just love trees. They're so much fun. I love doodling the bark. It's so much fun to do. Now on this page, I have a fold out. And what I tried to do is make my doodle on this page go in and join this design so that it'll look more cohesive. And in here I had some parts of the design that I liked and other parts I didn't, so I cut out the parts I didn't. And it also gives it kind of like a fussy cut look. So when you open it up on the next page, it gives a little more interest. I wish you could really see the colors on that, because it really has a vintage look to it on that thistle. And this one I did even more cutouts, and then all the pieces that I took off of here I used like appliques on other pages. And again, trying to integrate my doodles on this page into the design of the splashy paint. And here, this I actually tried to make it look like a design that was a little more like my phone. Let me get my phone. I don't know if you can see that, but it has a design with a tree. You can see I love trees on everything. And I tried to make this pattern look a little bit like that, just to give it a little different than just my normal doodles. Here you'll see that I really used a lot more heavy paint than the browns. But I love this because I need a few pages that are blank because I love to doodle. And so that gives me plenty of room to doodle in the future. This is one of those appliques that I cut out from another piece of paper that I did doodles on. Another one. I don't know if you can see the paint in that. It's got some greens and purples and on the tree bark. Another blank page, and then on this page I decided to do something different. I created a 3D flower. I sort of got the idea from somebody named Shannon Green. I love watching her. I've been watching her since she lived in Houston. But anyway, I folded paper so that when I cut it made a little more regular edges so it could be more like a flower. And there's 3 of these here, all glued together in the center and then just rolled up on the edges. Took a piece of paper and I made it thin enough that I could roll it. And then I painted everything, cut out some leaves and put on that page. On this page, I just loved that whole splatter page with all the little flowers on it and decided to make this a book. So this is glued down and each page is glued together on top of the other page. So I have plenty more room to doodle and write. And then back here some more journaling. Okay, on this one I have another tuck created with splatter paper. And then I created a little book. I just cut out from splatter paper, and I like the fact that it came out like a rose. And this is an accordion book. It's glued right here together. And when you fold it up, there's a little more splatter paper. Another applique. 2 blank pages just waiting for me to come back and doodle on them. And then I have another little pocket here, another tag. This one I rolled the paper here. And then again, placed a journal. If you've been paying attention, you'll see that I numbered all the pages. This one had a big, nice, wide flap. Some more flowers. some more blank pages, and we're at the end of my book. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Since it was my first one, give me a thumbs up if you like it, and please, I just hope that Nick the Booksmith is proud of what I've done here. I really enjoyed doing it. Who knows, I might do another one. Thank you. Bye-bye.